now going to talk about hemodynamics. Okay, about hemodynamics, and we'll understand about hemodynamics, what is to be done. All right. So first of all cardiovascular measures are in millimeters of mercury. All cardiovascular measures are in millimeters of mercury. All right. All cardiovascular measures are in millimeters of mercury.
So,
Huh?
so we won't be able to. We are not able to see the presentation, sir.
Not able
PPT
to
नहीं
see
दिख
the.
रहा है.
Okay, wait 1 second. Now,
अभी दिख रहा है सर.
दिख रहा है ना?
हाँ.
ठीक है. 1 minute. All right. Can you see it? Hemodynamics. Niharika. दिख रहा है?
नहीं सर. I can see you.
वापस नहीं दिख रहा है क्या?
नहीं, अभी बीच में दिखा था. अभी नहीं दिख रहा है. I can see you actually.
Wait, hold on. Now you can see?
हाँ सर. Yes sir. Yes sir.
All right. Okay, so all cardiovascular measures are now you can see. Niharika, you can see now? You can see, right? Okay, so all cardiovascular measures are in millimeters of mercury. All cardiovascular measures, whatever we're going to measure, just now we taught fluid field transducers, they are in millimeters of mercury. We never do it in centimeters of water. So in last nursing exams, now I'd asked one of the candidates, how much is your CVP? So she said 4 to 3 centimeters of water. We never measure in centimeters of water. We always measure in millimeters of mercury. We always measure in millimeters of mercury. Okay, so what is the arterial blood pressure? It is a combination of three pressures: hemodynamic, kinetic, and hydrostatic. Then only you get pressure. But you must understand that if the arterial blood pressure is normal, it does not mean that the peripheral tissue perfusion is. It does not mean that. You may have seen this many times. Blood pressure is normal, but the patient is blue. Blood pressure is 120, but the patient's fingers are blue. So peripheral tissue perfusion is not equal to arterial blood pressure. You must understand this. Okay, peripheral blood pressure is not equal to pressure. Peripheral blood pressure is not equal to tissue pressure, not equal to arterial blood pressure. The systolic blood pressure is basically because of three things. One, stroke volume, how much fluid is there inside the heart, how much blood is there inside the heart, that is called a stroke volume. Stroke volume means every heartbeat how much blood is pushed outside, that is called a stroke volume. It also depends on the speed in which it contracts, that is called as velocity of left ventricular ejection, and it also depends on how much resistance is there ahead. So if the if there is high resistance ahead, the blood will not go up. It's as simple as that. Okay, systolic arterial resistance. So in short, if I'm going to push against the resistance, the blood will not get pushed out. So systolic blood pressure is determined by stroke volume, velocity of left ventricular ejection, and systolic arterial resistance. So in short, this can occur. This systolic arterial is a very important part. For example, you have a patient in sepsis and you give very high noradrenaline. You give very high noradrenaline. Now, if the noradrenaline goes to 10 ml and 20 ml, what is going to happen? The heart will fail because heart will be unable to push the blood against that resistance because you have constricted the entire circulation. If you have constricted the entire circulation, the heart will be unable to pump. So this occurs in cases of left ventricular failure. If the patient's heart functions are पहले से ही कम है, 25% है, 10% है, 12% है, and now you give noradrenaline. You give noradrenaline, which is a very highly potent vasoconstrictor. The heart will be unable to pump that blood. So your blood pressure will actually fall. Giving noradrenaline, your blood pressure will fall. It is something else that will occur. You got the point. The heart will fail. So you might get heart failure if your ejection fractions are on the lower side. So NORAD is not going to solve your purpose in those cases unless the heart improves. You understand, na? So systolic blood pressure is determined by stroke volume, velocity of left ventricular ejection, and systemic arterial resistance. It also depends on viscosity of blood, left ventricular preload, and distensibility of aortic and arterial walls. Now, which are the various hemodynamic monitoring that we have? See, there are four or five very important things more than monitoring. The five important monitors that you have, which is probably the best, is skin temperature, capillary refill, urine output, and mottling and mental status. This is very, very important. More than what you're monitoring, this is more important. Mental status, mottling means change of color, skin temperature, how cold is or how warm it is, capillary refill, and urine output. These are the things that are very, 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 very easy to monitor. Very, very easy. And these are probably the best, because even if your blood pressure is low, but the patient is talking to you nicely, that means it's not a problem. Even if your heart rate is fast, but there is good urine output, it is still okay. Capillary refill. If you know what is capillary refill, capillary refill is you press against the nail bed. When you press against the nail bed and you release, okay, you will see a return of that red color. The return of that red color should be within 2 to 3 seconds. If it is within 2 seconds, means things are okay. Capillary refill, it is better than any monitoring device. Capillary refill is better than any monitoring device. Urine output is better than any monitoring device. Skin temperature is better than any monitoring device. Mottling is better than any monitoring device. And mental status. So for example, if you get mottling, that means 100% this patient is probably going to die if his mottling is going to start occurring. That time you do whatever you want to your NORAD, you do what you want to your vasopressin, you do what you want with anything, it is not going to improve. So it's clear-cut signs. Similarly, urine output starts reducing and it reduces for 24 hours. Clear-cut signs that things are not okay. Capillary refill, very, very important. Capillary refill. If you can press the capillary refill, simple test to do. You'll understand that if the capillary refill is okay, means the pressures are okay, things are okay. Temperature goes cold. So these are the more important monitoring tools rather than what we are going to learn ahead. If you know these 4 or 5 things, then your monitoring devices are just secondary. So non-invasive blood pressure and heart rate, these are something that we'll discuss. Okay. Now the problem is, however, the problem is all these postural hypertension, skin temperature, mental status, capillary refill, they are not very sensitive and not very specific. They're not very sensitive. It will help you. It will help you like crazy. Superb help it will give you, but they're not specific. To make it more specific, we require also the presence of non-invasive blood pressure and heart rate. So everything together will give you a better estimate rather than one particular. You can't just look at skin temperature or only capillary refill or only mottling. It has to be everything together. When you see everything together, you'll understand okay, blood pressure is okay but skin is mottling, or blood pressure is okay but there is problem with capillary refill. Capillary refill is okay but blood pressure doesn't seem to be okay. So you have to see everything together. All right. Now the importance is to understand what should be the right size of your blood pressure cuff. What is the right size of blood pressure cuff? So the width of the bladder, your blood pressure cuff has got a bladder inside. Your blood pressure cuff has got a bladder inside. The width of the bladder should be 2/3 of the upper arm. Width of the bladder, whereas the length of the bladder should encircle at least 80% of the arm. If it does that, your blood pressure is okay. The lower edge of the cuff should be 2.5 centimeters above the antecubital space. So when you're doing non-invasive blood pressure monitoring, this is how you're supposed to do. Now, in our device, if you see now, there is one white line. There is a white line in our device and there is an index. So next time you go to our ICU, look at the non-invasive blood pressure cuff. There will be a white line and there will be 2 lines inside. So the white line has to be inside those 2 lines. If that white line on the cuff is inside those 2 lines, means your cuff circumference is okay. You understood or no? You understood? So when you see your NIBP cuff, there will be if there's an NIBP cuff like this, on the inner section there will be 2 white lines. There will be 2 white lines here and there will be 1 white line here. When you turn this on the body, this white line should be between those 2 lines. If it is between those 2 lines, means the length and the length of your cuff is okay. You understand? You don't, if it goes beyond it or it goes under it, then the length is not okay. It will give you erroneous blood pressures. It will give erroneous blood pressures. Understand? So if it is a larger cuff, you will have false low reading. If it is a smaller cuff, you have falsely high reading. You must understand this because in your exams this comes as a question. When exams this come, if your cuff is small, what will be your blood pressure? Blood pressure will be higher. If your cuff is large, what will be your blood pressure? It will be lower. It's very important for you to understand that the cuff diameter is important. So if you have an obese patient, your non-invasive blood pressure will be the wrong blood pressure. If you're an obese patient, if you use the same cuff, because if you give the same cuff to an obese patient, you will get a low reading of blood pressure and you will start treating that blood pressure for no reason. That is why if you have an obese patient, your cuff is not fitting, please put an arterial line. Just put an arterial line if you don't get obesity cuffs. Use an arterial line for all these patients. Okay, that's about that. What is the problem with non-invasive blood pressure? There are major problems. Now, this is one of the major problems. There's pain. Related patients will say, "But it's painful." So, if a patient has come in and you have not put an arterial line, you keep it cycling for 5 minutes, 5. But after that, you stop cycling it for every 5 minutes. Keep it every 1 hour. Keep it every 2 hours. Something like that. So, pain develops. In patients whose platelet counts are low, there will be petechia, there will be ecchymosis. Be careful. That is why the edge of the cuff should be 2.5 centimeters above the antecubital fossa. If you keep it close to the antecubital fossa, there will be petechia, there will be ecchymosis. Don't do that. It should be 2.5 centimeters above the antecubital fossa. Patient can develop limb edema. There can be presence of venous stasis and thrombophlebitis. Patient can develop peripheral neuropathy, tingling and numbness in the fingers, and there can be something called as compartment syndrome. What is the meaning of compartment syndrome? Compartment syndrome I have seen in our hospital with non-invasive blood pressure. It has occurred. Okay, what is the meaning of compartment syndrome? Compartment syndrome matlab all 5 P's. Pulselessness, there is no pulse. There is pallor of the hand. Okay, there is peripheral neuropathy. There is pain. Okay, this all develops, and there is edema, peripheral edema. The edema also comes in. So there is pallor, there is pulselessness, there is paralysis, there is peripheral neuropathy. All these things start developing. Okay, that is called as compartment syndrome. We have seen it in our hospital with use of non-invasive blood pressure when the blood pressure cuff remains off. What had happened is somebody was doing on a ventilated patient, somebody was doing a blood collection. So they inflated the cuff and left it inflated. They didn't deflate it only, and they forgot about it under the table. After a half an hour, when we came and saw the patient, the entire limb was completely edematous and there were problems. That is called as compartment syndrome. Okay, we cannot have, so it's a very dangerous thing. So pain, petechia, limb edema, venous stasis, peripheral neuropathy, and compartment syndrome. These are the complications of having a non-invasive blood pressure. Moreover, what is very important for you to understand is if the blood pressure is less than 100 or it is more than 150, this will be inaccurate, completely inaccurate. A non-invasive blood pressure works only when your blood pressure is somewhere more than 80 or it is less than 150, 170. 150 to 170. Once it goes beyond this, your blood pressure is not right. You need to put an invasive monitoring. Clear on this? So non-invasive blood pressures, once the blood pressure is less than 100, put in an arterial line. Once the blood pressure is more than 150, 170, 180, put an arterial line. Okay. For example, you have a neurosurgery patient coming in. If your neurosurgery patient coming in, blood pressure is going to be high. It's going to be 180, 190, 200. Don't leave it on an NIBP because that blood pressure may have been 250. You are seeing on NIBP 150. You understand? That's why put an arterial line in those patients because you have to correct that. Okay. Similarly, if your blood pressure is 100, don't just wait, put an arterial line because the blood pressure may be inaccurate. It becomes very, very inaccurate at lower levels of blood pressure and higher levels of blood pressure. So very often you see this, the nurses coming and saying, sir, manually acha hai. Manually acha ho hi nahi sakta agar blood pressure low hai. Are you understanding? Huh? Agar blood pressure is low, manually it is not going to make sense only because manually the blood pressures are going to be inaccurate. So if your blood pressure is on the lower side, the arterial line is the best blood pressure. If the arterial line is not working properly, if you have seen a fast flush and it is not working properly, change the arterial line. But don't see a manual blood pressure. A manual blood pressure will underestimate or overestimate the blood pressure at the lower ranges and at the higher ranges. So very often it is seen manually blood pressure low. Manually blood pressure leke koi fayda nahi hota. Understand this, okay? Because it is inaccurate. It is absolutely inaccurate. It is if the arterial line is not, the fast flush test is negative, not working properly, change the arterial line. But at the lower levels and at the higher levels, manual blood pressure is not the way you do it. You will want to correlate it. You can correlate it if you want, but manual blood pressure is not the way you can do it. Okay, why do you need an arterial blood pressure? Any patient that goes on noradrenaline, any patient that requires vasopressors, any patient that requires any kind of medicines to keep the blood pressure up, you need to put an arterial line. You have understood why? Because you cannot titrate your noradrenaline or your adrenaline with NIBP. You have to titrate it. You have to titrate it with an arterial line. You need a beat-to-beat monitoring of blood pressure. So you have to do it with arterial line. So especially in those patients who have got frequent unstable blood pressures, in those patients also you require it. Sometimes, very rarely, we do it for frequent blood gases, but that is not an indication. If you want frequent blood gas also, we don't want to put an arterial line. Arterial line can be more dangerous. Okay, very, very rarely this was an indication to do it, but we will never do it. And the fourth is you cannot do a non-invasive blood pressure. If you cannot do a non-invasive blood pressure because of maybe the cuff is not okay, cuff is small, cuff is big, okay, and there is some kind of problem on the hand, some vascular surgery has been done. You cannot use a non-invasive. You need an arterial line in those cases, right? So this is what your arterial waveform looks like. We just discussed that: anacrotic notch, peak systolic pressure, diacrotic notch, and diastolic pressure. Right now, how does this non-invasive blood pressure actually monitor blood pressure? 1/3 systolic plus 2/3 diastolic. So in your non-invasive NIBP, how does your blood pressure get monitored? It is a calculation. The monitor calculates it. 1/3 systolic plus 2/3 diastolic and gives you a number. That is your mean arterial pressure. You understood, no? Your mean arterial pressure is 1/3 systolic plus 2/3 diastolic. That is how your monitor calculates the blood pressure. That is how your monitor calculates the blood pressure. But how does the arterial line do it? It measures your mean arterial pressure as an area under the curve. Area under the curve. That is why the mean arterial pressure that is given by the arterial line is the right pressure. That's why the MAP is equal to area plus base. So if you look at this, let us look at this. 115 divided 115 over 80. What is 1/3 systolic? 1/3 of 115 is how much? Can you calculate? 115 by 80. This is what the blood pressure is showing. Okay, 115 by 80. So what is 1/3 of 115? Can you calculate? 1/3 into 115. Calculate somebody. Who's calculating? Who's calculate? कोई calculate कर रहा है क्या? Who's calculating? Niharika, you calculating? So 1/3 of 115 is how much?
Yes.
1/3 of 115?
310.
Huh? 1/3. 115 divided by 3 is how much?
Diastolic BP, sir?
80.
80.
Huh. What is it coming as mean arterial pressure?
91.
91, exactly. So you're saying 91. But what is actually the mean arterial pressure? If you look at the screen, what is the mean arterial pressure here? See, the mean arterial pressure over here is 97. Can you see that? 97. 91 or 97 में जमीन आसमान का फर्क है, बराबर है कि नहीं? हाँ? So that is why the mean arterial pressure by the arterial waveform will give is by area under the curve. What you calculated was 91. What you are seeing on the screen is 97. That is because it is calculating by area under the curve. You're understanding now?